Top 10 ways the late Queen Elizabeth II's death will be bizarre. The Queen is dead. Today, on September the 8th, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II died at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Elizabeth II was queen since 1952. At that time, she made that title utterly her own. Now that the beloved monarch has died, it might surprise you that we know what will happen next. The world's governments and media have been preparing for it for decades. Welcome to our channel. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe channel before watching the further video. Number 10. Previous royal deaths have gone terribly. Despite a reputation for pomp and circumstance, previous royal funerals and ceremonies have been disasters. At the funeral of Princess Charlotte, the undertakers were drunk. George IV needed to hire prize fighters at his crowning ceremony to stop the distinguished but belligerent guests from hitting each other. It was so cold where the Duke of York was buried in 1827 that the Foreign Secretary got rheumatic fever and the Bishop of London died. Even Queen Victoria's coronation was unimpressive. The clergy forgot their words, and the coronation ring didn't fit. Number 9. The planning is like something from a spy film. The last time a British monarch died was in 1952. Monarch's death news was confirmed using the code words Hyde Park Corner to prevent switchboard operators from discovering and leaking the information early. The Queen Mother's funeral plan was called Operation Tay Bridge. For Elizabeth II, the plans for her passing are named Operation London Bridge and read like a manual for a secret military operation. The Prime Minister will be awakened, if asleep, and told by civil servants that London Bridge is down. This cryptic code phrase signifies that the Queen is dead. Although we wonder what they'll say if the actual London Bridge collapses. Things could get pretty confusing if the Queen dies in a bridge collapse. Number 8. It will be the biggest funeral in human history. When the Queen joins the great majority, it will be the most prominent funeral of all time, if not the most viewed event in human history. Diana's death had more than 1 million people watching the funeral procession. Worldwide, as many as 2.5 billion people are watching TV. By all estimates, the Queen's funeral dwarfs these figures. George IV had 305,000 subjects visit his coffin to pay their respects, creating a line 6.4 kilometers, 4 miles, long. Predictions for the Queen's funeral estimate at least 500,000 mourners. That's 500,000 people queuing up to enter a single room. Number 7. The whole funeral process will be like something from the 1800s. Britain will use all the tradition, pomp, and ceremony it can muster, essentially turning back time by 200 years. Horses, carriages, cannons, and traditional military uniforms will flood the streets of London. At the same time, the air will fill with the sound of tolling church bells. Church bells will revive old systems, traditions, and ceremonies. Some have not been seen in over 6 decades, if at all. Even the official announcement will be made by a royal footman, pinning a notice on the palace gates, informing passers-by of the monarch's death. The media is no exception to this revival of old customs, as the BBC will activate RATS. These RATS stands for Radio Alert Transmission System, or Royal About to Snuff It, as it's sometimes jokingly called in the BBC offices. Number 6. Everything is already planned out to the last minute. Operation London Bridge is meticulously planned out, often down to the minute. For instance, Prince Charles will be officially proclaimed king at 11:00 a.m. the day after the Queen's death. Big Ben will strike at 9:00 a.m. on the day of the funeral, and the coffin will reach Westminster Abbey's doors at 11:00 a.m. Outside of Britain, other governments have their secretive arrangements. Ottawa's federal government refuses to reveal its plan for the Queen's death, reserving it for cabinet ministers and senior advisors. Almost every media outlet also has drills and systems to prepare in case the reigning monarch assumes room temperature. Radio stations have prearranged playlists of appropriately somber music. For example, Chris Price of BBC Radio once says if you hear the song Haunted Dancehall Nursery Remix by Sabres of Paradise, then some horrific event or major death has just occurred. Number 5, everyone will be judged for every tiny mistake. Every broadcaster needs to gear up because they know they'll be under incredible scrutiny. When the Queen Mother died, newsrigger Peter Sissons wore a red tie. The national media promptly hounded him for his apparent disrespect.
Everything you know is
He was caught red-handed, or at least red-tied. Sissons and the BBC, in general, were also accused of not providing enough information and treating it as just another news story. This incident was hugely influential in how the British media presented celebrity deaths. Now, the judgment will be even harsher in the age of social media. Number 4, British national identity will completely change. Vast swaths of British culture rely upon Queen Elizabeth's identity. She became queen while Truman was president of the United States and Stalin was the leader of the Soviet Union. Her face adorns British currency, while her emblem sits on the police and military uniforms. The British national anthem's name changed after the late Elizabeth II. God Save the Queen. Passports will be replaced. Military insignia will be updated. New stamps will be printed, and even minor things like mailboxes will have to be altered. Number 3, it will cost the economy billions. The immediate cost of the Queen's death will be huge. The UK economy will lose billions from lost working hours, not to mention the costs of the funeral and the subsequent coronation. In the 12 days after Elizabeth's passing, shops and banks across the country will close as an act of mourning and respect. In addition, the Queen's funeral and Prince Charles' coronation will become national holidays, costing the economy between £1.2 billion and £6 billion. Number 2, the Commonwealth might fall apart. The Queen is not just the monarch of the UK, but also Canada, Australia, Jamaica, and a dozen other countries. She is head of the Commonwealth, which includes nations such as India and South Africa. Her image and influence unite roughly 1/3 of the world's population, and her death may well spell the end of that unity. Australia has long had a powerful Republican movement. Perhaps a new, less popular monarch could push it over the edge. Number 1, Britain might become a republic. Although most surveys suggest that the monarchy remains popular with the British public, a new king without the same history, stability, or recognition might change that. Historian Greg Jenner has claimed that public admiration for Queen Elizabeth is a massive factor in current support for the monarchy. She's truly remarkable. Few believe the monarchy will immediately fall apart without her. However, there is speculation that public support will slowly drop off. Jeremy Corbyn, the current left-wing leader of the opposition, is a Republican after all. That is, he wants the UK to be a republic. We doubt that he's a GOP supporter. If any of these people surprised you, let us know in the comments. Give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.